College football expert Phil Steele has a prediction for Boston College that will stun Eagles Nation.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider, and I am your host of this show that has been going on for 5 years. I've been covering Boston College for over a decade. If you're looking for news, analysis, and scoops that you won't find anywhere else, you will only find it here at Locked On BC, your team every day. We are a daily Boston College podcast. We do shows 5 days a week, and we're the only daily Boston College podcast. On today's show, we're opening up Phil Steele's magazine and bringing out 3 big takeaways, his predictions for this upcoming season, positional group reviews for Boston College, and some shocking predictions about BC's roster. Let's dive into that on today's show. Now, Phil Steele, if you're not aware, is one of the best college football insiders out there. This guy has been doing this for over 30 years, and his magazine is like the holy grail for college football previews. You know, this thing is like 400 pages long. It's packed. I mean, every page has like 10,000 words on it. Like, I don't know how this guy does it, but he's one of the most accurate predictors out there. He's one of the most insightful projectors out there. And I personally, it's part of my summer routine to get his magazine when it comes out. Now, there's so much in this, but for today's show, I want to look at what Boston College, he had to say about Boston College, because I wanted to get his take. And he had some really interesting thoughts about what the roster will look like for BC this season. And let's not bury the lead here. What is going to be the biggest piece of this was who he predicts will be the starting quarterback. He didn't pick Grayson James. He projects that Dylan Larnagin is going to be the starter for Boston College football. Now, I'm not sure who Phil Steele is connected with BC, or if this is just his gut feeling watching or, talking to people. But this is interesting because this is not the first person who has picked Dylan Larnagin to be the starter. That being said, I have said before that I'm kind of in the middle here. I don't know where BC will go with this. I think there's an argument that you go with the guy that you know and can trust with Grayson James. But I also said there's an argument that if you want to take that next step as a program and you have a guy that can do that, you go with him as soon as you can. So it was really interesting to see that Steele took the more progressive or the higher end pick here. You most times when you read a projection, they go with the guy, returning starter, they're going to go with him. Nope, returning starter, they're going to go with that guy. He went the other way here. And I thought that was something to watch for. Additionally, you go down the roster. A lot of positions are the same, like running back. You got Turbo. You have Jordan McDonald on there and Alex Brum. You look at, wide receiver. It's paint by numbers with Bond, Lewis Bond, Reed Harris, Jaden Skeet, and then their backups. Get to the offensive line, though. This is the next piece that I thought was really interesting about his projections because I've had him on my radar. The 5 being the two tackles being Jude Bowery and Kevin Klein. The 2 guards being Logan Taylor and probably Eric Dougherty. And then the center being Dwayne Alec. That's what I think could be the case. Apparently, Phil Steele doesn't agree with me. And that's cool, too. I'm interested to see because he went paint by numbers with the tackles. He had Jude Bowery and Kevin Klein. He then had Logan Taylor at guard. It's his 3rd year. You expect him to be back. But then his other 2 positions, the other guard and center, are 2 guys I had maybe I thought a little bit that they could be the next guy. But I think I would call this a bit of a shocker. And that is Tommy Matheson at center and Amir Johnson at guard. Let's start with Amir. Johnson is the transfer from Merrimack. Didn't talk a whole lot about him this spring, but you read, I think it was CBS Sports. They also had a projection out of the most valuable transfer for each school, and they picked Amir Johnson. This is the second person that I've heard that has Amir Johnson in the starting lineup. And then EA Sports, I was talking to Mitch Wolf about this last night. I think they have Amir Johnson as a starter too. So maybe I'm missing something. But that could be the case there. And I think of Amir Johnson. He's coming from Merrimack, which I don't know anything about Merrimack football. I'll be blunt with you here, but obviously the staff liked him. They brought him in. He's going to have a chance to go with that. But I thought, without a doubt, if he's going to be the next guard, I thought Eric Dougherty would have the edge up on him. But that's what the summer camp is for. They're going to continue to work it out. And honestly, if Amir Johnson picks it up and his upside is higher than Dougherty, maybe he will be the next guy. And they're just going to, that extra practice is just going to get him there. Tommy Matheson, I'm a little less surprised about, but every time I come up with my starting five, I almost kind of forget that he's there because he didn't practice this spring. He was at Princeton, and Princeton, when you get Ivy League transfers, they have to finish their schooling first. They finish in May, so he missed all of spring practice. But this is a guy that has played a ton of football, and I couldn't tell you because he didn't practice yet what his adjustment to the FBS level is going to look like. For some guys, it's not that hard. I mean, look at Zion Johnson. But then there's other guys that it's very clear that that's a big issue. So if he's really good, they brought him in to play. You could also argue, so Phil has the two transfers in there, but you could also argue that you could also do Dwayne Alec at center or at guard, and then Tommy Matheson at center. Like, you could move Dwayne Alec if you think he's the next guy. Because honestly, like, I would say Alec is probably, in my mind, ranked a little higher than Dougherty. He just has some more experience. He's been around a lot longer. He's played the position longer. That would be my thought. Next, in a moment, we'll get into the defensive side of the ball. There's a few things there that made me surprised too. And then I want to get into what his Phil Steele's thoughts were about the position groups. He had one that he ranked really high, and I was like, that's a little disrespectful. I'll get into what those look like in just a moment. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf, or on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling with FanDuel? You can get on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. The Red Sox are playing hot, so I've stopped my fading on everything Boston Red Sox right now. But they're playing better, and they got a tough series coming up with Tampa Bay. I'm feeling like the Red Sox might be getting that good momentum going into the All-Star break. You can get the odds, get your action, and even get home run props. That's one of my favorites because when you hit big on a home run prop, you get paid big, and that's always a lot of fun. So if you're new to FanDuel, get $5 and $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. So you just bet $5, you'll get 150 bonus bets if you win. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride in the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. So open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get yourself started. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider, and I want to thank all of our everydayers out there, those that listen to Locked On Boston College every single day. You guys are the lifeblood of this podcast. I know some of you love to shout out to me, tell me about what your thoughts are. Even if I can't get to everything on the YouTube comments or social media, because it's a lot sometimes, I do read a lot of what you guys have to say, and maybe you don't disagree. Maybe you disagree with me. It's still great. That's what the great thing about this podcast is. We're talking BC sports. I have a passion for it. I know you guys do too. And I want to thank my everydayers who tune in 5 days a week. And if you want to become an everydayer, all you got to do is hit that like and subscribe button here on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, and you're going to be locked in to get BC coverage 5 days a week throughout the season. Now, I was talking about the offense. The defense, again, there was another surprise. Now, we know at the edge rusher position, everyone expects Quintavious Hutchins, or Q, to be the starter at one spot. He had 4 sacks and really came on as that second starting edge rusher at the end of the season. Now, he's here. He's going to be playing. It's his final year. But what interested me was that Favor Bate was listed at the second edge rushing position. Now, Favor Bate shouldn't surprise me because, honestly, I watched him a lot at camp. And of any of the new names that they brought in, especially on the defensive side of the ball, he stood out the most. I saw him make plays. He was very active. He's a very twitchy edge rusher that I think it could develop into that next guy. And so this is one that I thought was interesting because if I'm sitting down and making a depth chart for this next season and thinking about who's going to play where, that second rusher spot, I have absolutely no idea. Like literally, you could make an argument for any of them. You could say Edwin Kalengi because he's been around a while. Josiah Griffin, I know the staff liked him a lot last year. Maybe they brought in Anya Nuisi and he's going to be the next guy. I don't know. So I look at, Favor Bate being listed as a starter, and it's not that big of a surprise because why not him? Why not any of these guys? So I see a theme with some of Steele's picks. I think he picked a lot of the transfers to come in and play immediately. You look at the defensive tackle, the only admission I saw was Owen Stodmeyer wasn't listed very, very high at all, and he should be a starter. I think he's probably, he's earned it. He's played quite a bit of snaps. Linebackers were paint by numbers. Cornerbacks, same thing. Safety was the other one that I thought was interesting because Carter Davis was not listed as the starting free safety, and he's absolutely going to be the free safety. This one I disagree with Phil with and think absolutely, Davis is going to be that starting free safety. Like he's one of the best players you have on your team. If you play 2K, not 2K, NCAA football, he's one of the highest rated players on the Eagles for a reason. He was very good last year. He's going to continue to get better. And the combo of Davis and Price give you one of, KP Price. This is a group that I think is going to be really good. And that gets to our, well, actually, I should get one more depth chart piece. The final piece I don't agree with Phil on is who he picks to be the starting punter. Now, if you are a everydayer and you listen to the show all the time, there's one player that I have been crowing about for about 4 months now, and that is punter Andy Quinn. Andy Quinn from Ireland, 6'5" punter, true freshman. I think this kid is going to be the starter. Phil picked Seamus Florio, and I can understand why. He probably went with Florio, the kid from Yale that also transferred in, because he has more experience. So I get that. And honestly, Phil might not be wrong either because Florio I could see coming in and playing, doing punts when it's, at the 50-yard line and they need to try to pin the opponent back. That seems like where his foot is better. But overall, like bigger punter, bigger leg, it's Andy Quinn. He's going to be the punter. So that little piece I disagreed with. Now, he also does ACC rankings, and he did it by positional groups. And I'm not going to go over everything that he goes over, but there were two things I wanted to bring up. The group that he had the highest ranking for, and a group that he didn't give any respect to. So let's start with the piece that gets me angrier, the group that he gives no respect to. So quarterback, he ranked 13th out of the ACC. Florida State, number, I think 7 or 8, which again, my philosophy on this. If you're going to rank a guy that got benched for another guy higher than that guy that he got benched for, that's silly. And I know Castellanos is in Malzahn's system, but I'm still skeptical about that. I thought they were really low because he has Grayson James all the way down there with whoever Wake Forest has. I don't even know who their quarterback is. He has him down there with Cal, who has, no quarterback. They got guys that haven't really played. Same thing with Syracuse. I just thought it was, I feel like a quarterback that was the highest one of the highest in the ACC and QBR last year probably deserves a little bit more credit. And if you're talking quarterback room, I feel like 1 and 2, BC has a solid core there. So I just didn't agree with him there. Additionally, he had 15th, the linebacker room. This one confused me because he did, I've seen, it was Bill Connolly yesterday that I talked about. He said Davian Krause is excellent. And I agree with him. This guy is a fantastic linebacker, and he's only going to get better. You have him and you have Owen McGowan. You have 2 really good linebackers. And then you brought in Jason Hewlett, who Phil listed as a nickelback. I don't know why that was there, but whatever. Again, he has to write a whole ton of stuff, so I'm not going to hate on the guy. But anyways, 15th for linebacker. Should they be in the top 5? No. But I feel like middle lower should be it, not the bottom of the ACC. I feel like that was a little bit disrespectful for a group that could be a lot better than he's expecting them to be. That being said, he has 15th as well, the defensive line. You can see that one. A lot of question marks there. We don't know where the pass rush is going to come from. I get that one. Also, he also ranked the national rankings of each group, which I don't know how this guy. I mean, he must have like, the Charlie from the It's Always Sunny meme with all the charts and everything. I imagine that's what Phil Steele's office must look like, because I have no idea how he does this. But he had the offensive line and defensive line for BC ranked 72 overall. I don't agree with the offensive line at all. I think the offensive line is it's a lot better than the defensive line. And B, I think they're going to be okay, not near the bottom. So that was another piece that I thought, okay, not there. The piece that I thought he nailed, which I thought was a really interesting and really shows what national folks see of BC, is in terms of ACC ranking, he had the secondary as number 2 in the entire. So second in the ACC. And I think that really shows you where the strength of this defense is going to come from. We've talked a lot about on this podcast, and all you everydayers know about this, that KP Price, I project him out. He was third team, I think, on Phil Steele's All ACC, and I think he was the only one BC was listed as. I think when you're looking at what the best player on this team, it's right now a battle between two, Jude Bowery and KP Price. And I think KP Price has the highest upside moving forward. When you look at what KP Price can do, this is a smart wide cornerback, a smart safety, and a guy that I think there's a real solid chance that KP Price could be first team All ACC when all is said and done at the end of this year. So to see this cornerback room ranked second in the ACC and 32nd overall, which is crazy because there's 5 conferences. How many? Obviously, it was very high on the Big Ten and SEC, but I think that BC, that's where the talent of this defense is going to have to come from. It's going to have to come from the secondary. So that was the final piece of where he kind of projected things out. Now, the one piece that I laugh at, because I think we're all there, is one unit was by far the worst in the conference, and that was the special teams unit. And it's going off of projections from last year. It was really bad. We don't need to continue to beat a dead horse, but that was 16th. So that was where things are. And, there was things in the middle, like receiver/tight ends was 9, and they were nationally ranked. I think they're 50th or something like that. So, you look at where BC was at. This is a developmental program. That's what it's about. So you're not going to get the love that, even Syracuse will get with Jonte Cooks, because Jonte Cook is a 5-star wide receiver. He gets a lot of attention, even though he may just flame out, while BC has VJ Wilkins, who may actually be a more productive wide receiver. But he went to Campbell, and he was not ranked. So he might be more under the radar. That's what BC is bringing in. That's what BC is all about. So it's, will Bill O'Brien be able to get the most out of those guys so that they can take that next level? Will they be able to get this team up past that 7-win plateau? Or, are they going to take a step back? And that's the big question that Phil Steele talks about, and I'll get into my thoughts on that in our final segment. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider. Thank you all who have made us your first listen in every morning, whether you're doing the laundry or you're just making a cup of coffee and you decide to turn on Locked On BC to get your BC news. This is the right move. If you want to get your BC news, you're going to get it here 5 days a week. And if you're looking for a second listen, let me tell you about Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin. He talks everything college football, and he actually has a preseason power rankings of the ACC that I'm going to yell about tomorrow. So make sure you hear about that, because I don't agree with him at all. And it's not just BC. There's a few other things in there. So check that out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Now, the final thing about Phil Steele's his Bible for the upcoming season is he's light on predictions. He has, you can buy the magazine, but you also have Phil Steele Plus. And I think that's probably where the bold projections are, because it's not in the magazine. Record projections and game matchups. He has every game matched up. So I don't know where he put Boston College in terms of a record. It's not in there. And that's okay. You know what? The man wants to make money. All the power to him. Get that money while you can. Okay? But he did power rank BC. And he has Boston College as 12th. Nothing earth-shattering there. That's kind of what we expected for BC, and they need to live up to get to this. And if you've been following Boston College since you were younger, I have. I since the Tom O'Brien days when I remember it. Preseason, burying of BC or putting them at the bottom, that is the rite of passage. That's what Boston College is about. The Texases and Oklahomas and USCs and Ohio State, they're going to clog up the preseason top 25, and some of them rightfully should be. For a team like BC, it goes back to Bill O'Brien's motto. It's earn it. They're going to have to earn it to get more respect than that. They're behind Syracuse on the ranking. And if you know this podcast, if you listen, if this is your first listen every day, one of my pet peeves is Fran Brown love. And there was a lot of Fran Brown love in this magazine. They ranked higher than BC, even though they have the 5th hardest schedule in the conference, and they lost almost all of their returning production. Why? I don't know. Ask Phil Steele. So that was interesting. BC's only ahead of Wake Forest and Stanford. So that I thought was a little tad disrespectful to BC, because I look at a team like Cal. Now, Cal lost everything in the transfer portal. Everything. Fernando Mendoza, Jaden Ott, like every wide receiver that was in their wide receiver room, all their running backs. And they're doing kind of like a Dion Light, where they just repatched everything up with the transfer portal. Hey, does that work a lot? Especially for a team like Cal? I don't think so. So I'm really I was like, why are they ahead of us? And Virginia, believe me, if there's one team I sell high on, it's Syracuse and in Virginia. Those are the two teams I don't think are in Wake Forest. I don't think any of those teams are going to be any good. And I know UVA beat BC last year, but you can thank the guy down in Tallahassee for that one. But I don't see them either. So BC got really kind of buried low on this list. And when he's talking about what to expect from BC, he's actually pretty fair, I think. He talks about the offense, and he gets into, he expects them to score 27 points per game. And they scored, according to him, 29.3. That's not what I found in CFB stats, but whatever. But they scored that many. They score a little less points. But I think if you take a step back to see that still puts them on good footing, because last year their schedule wasn't all that hard. They didn't play very many like buzzsaw defenses. They got at least 2 of them this year. Clemson and Notre Dame are going to be a bear to score off of, and they're going to kill their points per game. It's just going to happen. So I could see why it gets down. In terms of the defense, he said he didn't really get into what to expect other than that defensive line could be an issue. Don't disagree with him there. But the final piece, the final end of this podcast that we're going to talk about, is what he said for projecting out for this season. 2 potential outcomes for BC. They take a step back if they can't win some of the games that they need to win, or they surprise people and are actually in contention for the ACC championship. I kid you not. That was written in his article, that if they win a few games and shock a few, they could be in contention to win the conference. That was shocking to me, because, hey, look, I see a lot of things through maroon and gold sunglasses, but the ACC championship game for this team, that would be quite the leap. I'm not sure if I'm there yet, but it was interesting to see that. I still think it's kind of in the middle. That's where I see it. Like, yeah, they could be a surprise team. I still think it's BC. It's probably going to be something there in the middle where they maybe do surprise a team, but also get a disappointing loss. On tomorrow's show, as I said, I'm going to talk about Spencer McLaughlin's power rankings. Anyone new BC news, I will make sure I have it here first on Locked On BC. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. Check me out on Instagram at Eagle Insider, Facebook, Blue Sky, Threads. I run the gamut to make sure that all of you get all your takes and BC news right here from me. Make sure you follow me there, and on TikTok. I do what the kids do. I have a Dom Funk clip that's like blowing up crazy right now. But hey, if you're a new subscriber that picked me up from TikTok, How's it going? Thank you for joining us. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button before you head out. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.